It's on.
Yes, we can see that.
All right, very good. Thank you for inviting me to this today event. Thank you for the great introduction. So SAFE, we developed a technology to be a solution for handling what I term food scraps out of the food waste stream. Focused on that, the system basically is taking food scraps collected from residential, commercial, institutional, and even depackaging sources, cleaning up the stream and feeding it into a dehydration system that dehydrates the product down to a finished meal. The meal is an animal feed. We have markets now as a high value fertilizer. The technology, when it's dehydrating, takes off different streams of liquids. We're working with liquid fertilizer. The processed water has a low pH, which actually acts as a cleaning product. And we also spinning off fog off the system that works in a biodiesel product. And we're experimenting now, a lot of talk about insects as animal feed. So our finished product acts as a feedstock for black soldier fly and mealworm production, which ultimately are high levels of protein and could be have a substantial market value. What our technology does is on the hierarchy of the food processing, source reduction, feed hungry people, next in line, feed animals, and industrial uses prior to composting and incineration. We're working on identifying the carbon footprint of this technology, but basically when the animal feed market, it is offsetting the carbon footprint of corn and soybean production, which is substantial. Basically, we've designed a system from start to finish that is scalable, but also designed for average size city in the state of California with a population of about 80,000 people. Our spokes are the pre-processing, where the collection vehicles would deposit the material to be cleaned up, remove contaminants. And we have 2 or 3 cities now that are feeding our hub, which is where the actual dehydration takes place. What's unique about this system when it comes to the pre-processing, because material coming in is still considered a solid waste by Cal Recycle definitions. We have a solid waste facility permit, and it's scaled to be 100 tons a day. At a minimum, we're working on a project that's 300 tons a day. Once we've made the what we call the mash after the pre-processing, the low pH level of that material is no longer regulated by Cal Recycling. So our hub, the dehydration system, does not require a Cal Recycle solid waste permit. In theory, we are regulated by CDFA in California as a feed mill. What that's process, a feed mill, by right use in most jurisdictions as industrial zoning, it's a by right use. Doesn't require a conditional use permit. As I said, the production facility spins off the dry mill, reclaimed water, once it's level brought up to a appropriate pH, or the way it comes off, low pH is pretty acidic and acts as a cleaning agent. And that's an organic cleaning agent. It's creating acetic acid, which is naturally produced in this process, not chemically produced as other cleaning materials are generated. The fat, oil, and grease that's spun off the food waste is marketable into the biodiesel refinery market, and also can be fed back to animals to increase the value and patability of the feed product. What we worked on is to find an alternative to large scale facilities. that it is more likely to be cited and permitted in a timely fashion, and reduces the transportation cost of material to what we're experiencing far out alternative facilities. Composting doesn't really work in urban areas. It takes a lot of acreage, and AD site, anaerobic digestion sites is also a large permitting and not always available close into the generators. And also the availability of adding the food scraps to green waste composting facilities is pretty limited, and potential future problems with air board and new composting regulations. So our SAFE system kind of is an alternative to all that. We've also developed on a collection system. Currently, our technology is kind of being utilized in Sunnyvale, Milpitas, Stanford University, Santa Clara. We had a pilot in San Jose, and we also currently have the pre-processing equipment in Santa Cruz. On the residential side, keeping the food scraps separate from the regular garbage being generated, we've come up with a split cart technology, and we've also deployed collection with a fourth cart per se in the residential sector, and also front load bed collection of commercial or industrial type food scraps. Our pre-processing experience equipment over the last 6 years in Mission Trail, we have also one at the Sunnyvale Smart Station. We've recently deployed one with the city of Santa Cruz, and we have a couple other projects under development with E.J. Harrison's and Son, and we're looking at a facility in the Riverbank area. The other advantages of the hub technology, the dehydration, is the footprint. It's scalable, but at a minimum, we're in an 8,000 square foot building in an industrial setting that can handle over 70 tons a day of material. The CapEx for the dehydration technology, from the numbers that are publicly available, and we're 25% of the CapEx in the dehydration center compared to composting or anaerobic digestion or the like. It's higher and better use in fractionizing this material. The feed has high protein levels. The also contains amino acids that have really not been degraded and are building blocks of life and add value to our product. There's multiple solutions. There's not one that fits all areas, but standalone, ready to deploy in a short term compared to the other technologies if those processes haven't been already in the planning development. And the carbon footprint, we believe, with not needing to transport to distant solutions and only transporting part of the fraction to those distant facilities. The residue or the contamination is removed at the generation fact and stays in those communities, which ultimately use landfill disposal for that material. So we think we've got a solution. It won't work for everybody, but we kind of designed it. Cities can deploy the pre-processing technology, does not need to be roof. We have two of the facilities are kind of rolled into a hauling collection yard, or in the case of Santa Cruz at their landfill facility, but it's freestanding outside, meets all LEA requirements as far as being a solid waste facility permit. So it works. It's been an adventure the last 6 years and learning a lot about this food scraps, how to handle it, get the contamination out, and have usable products versus the other alternatives, in my opinion, really end up at some type of soil amendment or compost, or generate electricity or methane gas. At the end of the day, there's a lot of that going to go through those facilities, and look down the road 50 years, with the environment the way it's going, the Midwest will probably become arid, and the farming will have to someplace else. But every ton of animal feed, which keeps the society going, it's an alternative long-term to a higher and better use for the food scraps. So with that, I think I'll sign off now.